Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueJackBuilder.com here with some spoilers for December 28th. So I have not checked these out. I have only looked at one that showed up on a Facebook feed, and it's a pretty cool card. I'll talk about it because it does go in a commander deck that I really enjoy playing. But this is going to be, you're going to see my reactions to the new spoilers. Haven't looked at a single one of them except for the green one. And let's just get this underway. So let's scroll down here. Again, this is at mythicspoiler.com. I think it's just the best site for spoilers because it's all laid out in kind of a visual format. All right, so let's start off the bat. Stonehaven Outfitter, 2 mana for a 2/2. Equip creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever equipped creature you control dies, draw a card? Oh, too bad. I mean, it's kind of a non-boa Skull Clamp, but it's like the Skull Clamp ability. Is there like a equipment that gives negatives? I think there is. Isn't there equipment that gives like a -2, negative, or +3, +3, -2, or something like that? But I think it's got a high equip cost. Or what's the one out of Scars of Mirrodin that the equip cost is to sacrifice? No, it's out of Innistrad. Demonic something, where the equip cost is sacrifice a creature. That's kind of cool. I like this card a lot. Do I think it's going to be standard playable? It's right there on the verge. It's an Anthem. If we get some better equipments, then possibly, but I gotta give it to you. This is a really cool card, and I'm gonna have some fun brewing around with this Stonehaven Outfitter. So far so good, loving it. Yeah, equip creature you control. What other things is this? Well, it's Skull Clamp, of course, is what this reminds you of, but it's +1/+1, not like +1/-1, which would be kind of silly if they basically put Skull Clamp on a creature. But yeah, he's got a nice little body for 2. I mean a 2/2 and then a +1/+1 if you equip it with something. So a 3/3 that can be reliably equipped even with like a Bone Splitter or Bone Splinter, right? Isn't that what the card is called? So anyway, let's go on to Jorian Ruined Diver. Ruined Diver for Jor. So here's the Jori that people thought was going to be printed because it's been in the lore. So it's Merfolk Wizard. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card. So it can draw you a card per turn. It's not bad. It's so you're only be drawing 1 card. Each turn that you cast 2 spells. So your first spell is going to go off. You're not going to get any benefit. Second spell is going to go off. You're going to draw a card. Third spell doesn't care. It's just your second spell each turn. That's kind of that's some really good card draw actually. Man, this actually, I don't think that it'll quite be modern playable because I think it'd have to give a little more benefit than just 1 spell per turn. Does the oops all the turns or all the turns want this card in? I'm not sure. I mean, it's a cool design. And I'm sure people will do 2/3 body for 3 mana. Still dies to a lot of the like Fiery Temper, or Fiery Mastery, whatever the spell mastery spell is. So I don't know, until that card is out of the format, we might not see this card see any play. But it's a decent. It's a creature that draws a card. I mean, that's what Dark Confidant does. It's what a lot of the more powerful spells in like the Modern Legacy format try to do, is get value and have a body, and it meets those requirements. So far I like Jorian. Tyrant of Valakut. This can be our bulk rare dragon that we get out of every set. 7 mana, Surge. You may cast this spell for its Surge cost. If you or your teammate has cast another spell this turn, I actually like the Surge mechanic because this is something. So right off the bat, this can pair with like Geosurge. Geosurge is I think it's a 3 mana to add 5 mana. Only spend it for artifact and or creatures. So, I mean, you could cast that and then cast it for its Surge spell. When it enters the battlefield, if its Surge cost was paid, it deals 3 damage to our creature player. That's not bad. So basically, you got to think of this as a 5 mana spell that has a lightning bolt attached to it. And even cards like the Gitaxian Probe or Mutagenic Growth or Gut Shot, any of the free spells are nice. Do we want this in like Scred Red and Modern? Probably not quite. I mean, it's kind of cool because you could go cast a Lightning Bolt and then cast a Tyrant of Valakut, and you should have 6 mana at that point, and then take out 2 threats and have a 5/4 body. I actually like this card a lot. It definitely could see play, and you don't worry about this alternate mana cost. The alternate mana cost is fine if you top deck it late and just have to play it. Like, you're gonna try to cast this for its Surge, and I'm wondering if there's gonna be a lot of undercosted spells. And we have Anticipate. Anticipate's a 2 mana spell. We don't really have a lot of like the 1 mana cantrip type spells in the format. They've kind of moved away from one mana cantrip spells. I know that white has a few still, I believe, Defiant Strike has +1 plus your own draw card. out of white, but I don't know if it's something that like Tyrant of Valak. I think this is a solid card though. So far 3 for 3. Stonehaven is by far my favorite. Let's go to comparative analysis. Comparative analysis says Surge 3. You can cast a spell for Surge cost. All right, so target player draws 2 cards. So it's instant speed. So it's divination. Wait, there is one that is an instant speed for 4 mana. I'm trying to think what the card is, and then the surge cost for 3. It's okay. It's a nice filler card. These do see play in a limited based format. In constructed, there's better things to do than comparative analysis. All right, so here's the one I've already seen on Facebook. This is the Gladeheart Cavalry, and I'm really liking this ability to support because one of my favorite decks in Commander is Experimental Kraj, and Experimental Kraj does stuff with +1/+1 counters on other creatures. It gains all activated abilities of creatures with +1/+1 counters. So the entire deck is doing things with +1/+1. So the Gladeheart Cavalry is going to fit in that. 7 mana is a little bit high for the Gladeheart Cavalry. I kind of like this in Animar because it's basically a 2 mana spell, but I don't think that it's put a +1 counter on each up to 6 other target creatures. So it can only put 1 counter on Animar. By the time you have 5 mana on Animar anyway, you're going off. But whenever creature controls with +1 counter or not dies, gain 2 life. So it's a 6/6 that can give up to 6. This sounds like a pretty bulky rare to me, just because it has a very, very high mana cost. And I don't think it's going to see any constructed play, but it's going to see some casual play. And I still like it in Experimental Kraj, man. You can basically gain 6 activated abilities with this guy, and then yeah, it's fine. And the 2 life in Kraj is always good. You don't have a lot of life gain in Kraj, so casual. This will be a fun casual card. It'll be a good limited card. A little bit risky and limited with the 7 mana cost, but it's a solid card. Speaking of support, and also keep in mind, support's cool because Hardened Scales still exists in the format. So let's go to Shoulder to Shoulder. It's a draw card in support too, for 3 mana. I think that this could go. I wish this was instant speed. I think Sorcery is going to push it from being playable to not quite playable, but this is going to be a very, very good card in limited. And it's still, with Prowess still in the format, it's not bad. You get a draw card, you get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, you get a trigger Prowess. This would have been really good in Heroic. This would have been extremely good in Heroic strategy. Too bad it didn't exist when Heroic existed. Too bad we don't have like an extension or extended format anymore, because I would like this Shoulder to Shoulder. At the moment, I don't know if I would want a +1/+1 counter on 2 different. There has to be. I guess the Outlast mechanic still exists too. So there could be some fun stuff you can do with Shoulder to Shoulder. It's a great design card. It does what you want. Puts counters, draws cards. Yeah, it's not bad. This is not a bad card. Munda's Vanguard. Cohort. Tap an untapped ally you control. Put a +1 counter on each creature you control. All right, so you have to have two cards to do this. What is this? This makes me think of like this is a Mikaeus, a weaker Mikaeus. And this will go in an ally deck. You have to tap it too, so Summoning Sickness. It's just a little bit too prohibitive to play this card at 5 mana. I think at 5 mana is the threshold in Magic where you have to be impacting the board immediately. Otherwise, it's susceptible to, at that point, either your opponent then doing something huge on their turn 5 or board wipe zone. So I don't think this card is quite playable. I think it will go nicely in like an ally commander deck though. Sure, I can see it there, or more casual play. It's going to be nice in limited as well. Very, very good card in limited. So these last 3 cards I think are more for the limited than the constructed. All right, so here we go, another Devoid. Devoid is a pretty sweet mechanic because of the Eldrazi Temple and the Eye of Ugin. So when Scion Summoner enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion. It has sacrifice, add a colorless to your mana pool. It's a 2/2. Yeah, it's fine. This is another Eyeless Watcher type card. Wow, green is going to have a ton of Eldrazi's running around, tokens running around. So I think that picking up the 1 damage to all creature spell out of red is going to be really good and limited. All right, Spatial Contortion. Target creature gets +3/-3 until end of turn. Yay, this is a cool card. I actually like this card a lot. It's removal for any color, basically. And you do have to, never mind, you have to cast a colorless mana for it. So you will have to find a way to generate colorless, so it's not going to go in a... Wow. Do you know what, though? I think the Eldrazi Temple might want this is it's another removal. This is a very solid card. +3/-3 can be a way to pump up your Eldrazi's, so it can turn your like Oblivion Sower into an 8/5 rather than a 5/8 for a turn if you need it to finish off an opponent. I think that's fine. It also in I was gonna say like Kiln Fiend, you might want this, but I don't think Kiln Fiend would want. You'd kill your own Kiln Fiend because it is a pump spell that like pump spells that can also duplicate as creature removal are pretty powerful. I love this in limited. Absolutely love this card in limited. There we have the unblockable 1/4 guy, the Eldrazi 1/4 Devoid, which will turn this into a 4/1 if you need to get some extra damage out of it. Yeah, this is usually in limited. You're going to use this as a creature removal, so very solid card. Reckless Bushwhacker Surge for 2 haste. When Bushwhackers enters the battlefield, if the Surge cost is paid, other creatures you control. Okay. I just found a card I absolutely love. This is where this card is going to work. Okay, go back to a few playing on budgets like a year ago. Oh, we're going to brew deck with this. We're going to do it. So as soon as this comes out, this goes in. It's a Young Pyromancer deck. And so young Pyromancer, and there's a Storm card that so first of all, there's a Storm card, the why can't I think of what it's called? The Goblin puts out a ton of Empty the Warrens. So Empty the Warrens, and there's also another Storm card. Plus it's Acheron Crusader, Young Pyromancer, and there's one other creature token generator, and I can't quite think of what it is at the moment. But what you do is you play a ton of free spells for Young Pyromancer and for the Acheron Crusader to try to put out a ton of +1/+1s. And what we're using right now is a spell that gives them all haste. I think that this is a little bit better because it +1/+0 and haste for 2 mana. This card is insanely good. This card is bonkers good. All right, this might be my favorite card printed out of Oath of the Gatewatch so far. Wow. So I'm gonna get that deck put together again. I'm gonna play this immediately when this comes out for Friday Night Magic, and I'll tape it live and see how well it does, because it's gonna be very fast, and I think this is just a lot better than the previous version, which is a spell though that gives them haste. I wonder if it's haste, but the Storesville gives +1/+0 for each other card you cast before it. But this Reckless Bushwhacker, and it's a goblin. And it's basically a Goblin Bushwhacker. It's the exact same cost as a Goblin Bushwhacker. So another Goblin. This might actually push Goblins into Modern, because it gives you another... Goblin Bushwhacker by far is the best card in that deck. And this gives you a second one. You just have to cast another spell before it. And that's easy. That's Goblin Grenade. That's Lightning Bolt. That's going to be Mutagenic Growth or Gut Shot or even like a ramp spell. What's the one that adds any color to your mana pool? And you do use that in the deck I'm talking about too. So Reckless Bushwhacker is just incredible. I'm going to bring it up on MTGO. We'll make a separate video for the Reckless Bushwhacker, and I'll show you what I'll play for the Acheron Crusader Young Pyromancer deck, as well as how this would look in a Goblin deck. But this is going to go nicely in the Krenko Goblins. This Reckless Bushwhacker is amazing. It's also a Warrior, which is kind of cool, because Goblin Warriors can actually be a tribe now, and it's also an ally, which is huge. So yeah, enough talking about this, enough having Kevin Gasm over the Reckless Bushwhacker. This is a solid card. It probably is my favorite card spoiled so far out of the set. All right, Walker of the Waste. Trample. Walker of the Waste gets +1/+1 for each land you control. Name wastes. Okay, sure, you can put that in a deck that runs a ton of wastes. Yeah. I don't really like it, though. I think there's better things to do for 5 mana. Because this is what is this, the Nightmare? This is a Nightmare for Eldrazi. Nightmare or Shambling, or was it Shambling something? There was another one out of two Innistrad. Journeying at Nyx had it, I think, for black, for 4. It's a 4-drop for... But I guess it gets +1s for each waste, and it already starts as a 4/4, so it can actually be a lot bigger in a mono waste deck. So it'd be a 9/9, I guess, on the turn you put it out. That's not too bad, a 9/9 Trampler. Okay, I'm underrating this card. This could actually be a lot better than I'm giving it credit. All right, another Devoid card, Deep Fathom Skulker. Devoid, whenever creature you control deals combat damage to player, you may draw a card, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. That's kind of cool. It's a Devoid for 6. It feels really bulky to me, though. It's got a cool ability on it. So it's like an Edric. Yeah, I like this. I think that this might go pretty good in my Animar deck as well, because you do need card draw. Oh man, it's getting to the point though. It's so hard. I'll show you my Animar deck one of these times. I'm going to announce on a video coming up the schedule for 2016. I'm going to try to be a lot more consistent on YouTube and on Twitch and whatnot. So I'm going to put a schedule. I'm going to hold myself to it. So I'm going to dedicate a lot more time to YouTube and whatnot, and try to be more serious with the channel. I've got some cool things coming up, some other collaborations and whatnot that I'll talk about. But swim team goes till February. I don't have a lot of time with the closing of swim team season. It gets very busy at this time of year. So, but I'll release a schedule, and then I'm gonna show you each week there will be a commander session, because we play commanders on Saturday night in my store, and I try to build a new deck every time to play. But anyway, my Animar deck is like cutting a kid. It's so sad when I have to cut a card, because every piece in my Animar deck plays a pivotal role, and I hate cutting cards. So, but Deep Fathom Skulker, I think can easily go in Animar, and is a pretty fun little card. So one more Devoid card, Dread Defiler, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Target opponent loses life. Card from your graveyard. Well, that's switching things up. Target opponent loses life equal to exiled creature's power. Oh my god, that's broken. That card is so broken. So here's a card that Dread Defiler, I mean, it's going to be hard to play, because it's a 6/8 for 7 mana, and there's just better things you can do at 7 mana than you have to activate this for another 4. But keep in mind, the Eldrazi Temple can be activated to activate cards of Eldrazi, like their abilities. And so in like an Eldrazi Temple deck, I can see this could actually be played in that mono black Devoid deck. I just don't think that Eldrazi deck in the modern, I just don't think that it's quite powerful enough. For 7, I mean, Eye of Ugin and Eldrazi Temple can get out pretty quickly with Urborg Tomb Yawgmoth, and the Exile is fine. But where I really like this, and I'll have to show you this deck as well, where I absolutely love this Dread Defiler, is in now I can't even think of my commander's name, a Vorath the Fallen. And Vorath the Fallen uses a ton of Eldrazi, and this is instant speed as well. So you could actually discard a high converted mana cost like Draco. Yeah, Draco of course would be. Oh, it's by its power, isn't it? Not by its converted mana cost. So what Vorath the Fallen likes to do is it likes to exile cards with at least converted mana costs with 7 or 8, because it allows you to discard 2 cards and one-shot someone in Commander. And then as alternate win condition, you play like a reanimation strategy. Again, I'll show you this deck as time goes on for my Commander spotlights. But what Dread Defiler offers is another way to dish out a ton of damage, because you're going to have a lot of cards that have high power in your graveyard. The deck uses like a bunch of 9/9s and 10/10s with extremely high mana cost, and then you throw them in your graveyard with cards like Buried Alive, or I use a bunch of dredge cards to dredge a lot of stuff into my graveyard. And then for 4 mana, you can exile something, do like 9 damage to opponent. I think that's kind of cool. I don't know if it's powerful enough to see constructed play, but you never know. We've seen crazier cards see play. This could be an reanimation target, and the cost though is a little bit prohibitive at 4. So it's going to be hard to reanimate this and activate it on one turn, let alone activate it twice on one turn. I mean, there is cards like Training Grounds that can reduce the cost of this, but I just don't see that happening. So anyway, cool card though. Definitely a really cool ability. I'm really super excited by these cards. I think we already have through the other cards spoiled. I did a spoiler video and just never released it out of these other cards that were spoiled from the subsequent the whole spoiler fiasco that happened. But anyway, I think that these ones, at least spoiled on December the 20th, are amazing. They're very great design, so kudos to the design team for Oath of the Gatewatch. I think that they're going to be very fun and limited. All of those were very cool and limited, even the commons. And then the constructed ones are going to be, I think they're going to switch things up, at least in... this adds another dimension to Modern, at least with the new Goblin Bushwhacker. And super excited. Well, so without further ado, let's go head on to MTGO, and I'm gonna build a deck utilizing the new Bushwhacker. This is Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.